Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about a dating weakness. If you haven't noticed already, I'm doing videos about dating superpowers and dating weaknesses, and sort of the differences between strengths in dating and not so strengths in dating. And so today we're talking about a weakness called hyper independence. This idea is I've only recently come across it through various people on the internet, of course. And essentially, being hyper independent kind of separates you from the idea of wanting a partner or needing a partner. And I feel like this has applied to me in the past and maybe even right now, who knows. But it is the idea that you are so happy alone, you are so happy by yourself, you are self sufficient, you meet all of your needs and all the things that you want to do, that the idea of looking for a partner, needing a partner, or wanting a partner kind of becomes severely diminished to the point where I have stopped looking. Sorry, I just have to let the dog in. But, let's see, she's in. Anyway, the concept is not new, and I think a lot of very high-powered people, especially women, tend to fall into this kind of category of being hyper independent and not needing any man. But I think it can apply to anybody, not just those like super successful tiger type people, but it can apply to anybody. And so I'll use myself as an example. I feel like I am a pretty independent person. I have the skills and the understanding to get things done. I'm a fully fledged adult, he says, living in his parents' house. I'm house sitting, so that's why I'm here. But I have all the skills I need. I have several jobs that, create a lot of independence for me. I'm basically self-employed in most of what I do for work, so I don't have like a boss giving me overhead or telling me how many hours I have to work. And I have a good system of friends and interests. I have a lot of hobbies and things that I like to do. I have a very refined schedule when it comes to going to bed at like 8 o'clock at night and sort of having my cup of tea and just enjoying my time with the dogs and a fire. So I'm very happy with who I am. I reflect on who I am. I have a spirituality through Taoism about sort of how I interact with the world, what I believe when we die. All of these kinds of things are kind of sorted in my brain. I don't have this kind of I see myself as a ship that is moored in a harbor that's very stable. It doesn't get a lot of high wind. I've taken a lot of precautions. I'm very happy with the view. I love the people in my little local harbor, and I don't need to unmoor myself and go out into the ocean and search for something more. And I think that's very characteristic of people who are hyper independent. So that being said, the title of this video is obviously Dating Weakness, Hyper Independence. So this is only a weakness if you view the end goal of being in a relationship as the most important thing. So a lot of people are very happy single. A lot of people are very happy on their own, doing their own thing. I think I fall into this category quite a lot, but I do think every now and then it would be nice to have somebody who sort of is compatible with me, works well, I'm innately curious about. Our first video was about curiosity. And so I do have this idea of being in a relationship is probably a good thing, and it's probably something that I'd like to explore. I'm fortunate that I've had experiences, I've had long-term relationships in the past. I've been seeing a lot of things online about how common it is to have never been in a serious relationship now. It's becoming very common. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think a lot of people who have never had a serious relationship really want one. And so I think that's one of the problems. So this video is basically trying to get to the root of hyper independence. And if it's the cause of maybe why you are single, then I hope this video finds you and helps you in any way it can. I think the solution to the idea of hyper independence is when you are putting yourself out there, which is the first step. You know, if you're not putting yourself out there, you're going to be single. That's how this works. You're not just going to randomly have a romantic interest knock on your door and say, "Hi, I'd like to marry you." That's not how it works. So you have to put yourself out there. And when you do, I think it's really important to identify the traits of an independent person. These traits are subtle at first, and they're pretty easy to pick up on as you start dating somebody. So I think the first thing is the person will probably not be responding to your text messages on the dating app instantly. You know, you might catch them at a good time and maybe you respond a few back and forth messages. But on the whole, independent, self-reliant people tend to... Okay, Lily. Sorry, the dog was just shaking off all the snow. Independent people tend to have a life going on. They have friends, they have family, they have a whole sphere of influence, they've got their life, and things are happening. So don't expect them to be super responsive. You know, hopefully they will show some interest, which is absolutely important. If they're not showing interest, it's not for you. Sorry, a little bit of a, whew. It's not for you. But that's sort of the earliest sign of an independent human being. Another one is being able to fit you into a schedule. If they aren't independent, if they rely on their parents, sorry, my thing came up with you have 20% left on your phone. If they are reliant on their parents, or they have a boss, or, you know, they have things in their life that they can't control, it might be harder to schedule your first date. And that's another indication of how independent is this person being. And I'm not talking about if these people have a 9-to-5 job Monday to Friday. That they can still be you can still be incredibly independent with a job like that, with a boss. I'm just saying, if on the weekends or when they should normally be free, they aren't able to give you a for sure yes or no if they're ready to go on a date with you, that is another indication that they are not very independent in their own life, and if they can't make the time, again, you're kind of dead in the water. You might as well move on. But what I'm getting at is, I think for a hyper independent person, a person who is self-reliant and can focus on their own goals and focus on their own journey, you need somebody who is equally as independent. You know, when I think about the ideal partner in my situation, I think of someone who is independent, who has a good sphere of people around them, who is supportive. This person needs to be curious and interested about the world and learning and always growing. If I meet somebody on a first date and the person isn't interested in getting to become a better person, if they're not actively learning new things, or, you know, trying to learn a new skill or trying something new, I'm kind of bored. You know, I need somebody who is innately fascinated by the universe and the world and everything in it. And as much as the world can be a difficult place and it can be a negative place, I need somebody who sees the absolute amazing joy of this world. And I think that is severely understated in this society, in this universe. So those are kind of the things that I think are important. Being a hyper independent person is not a bad thing. Life is about moderation. So if you are unwilling to give a little bit of your independence in certain circumstances, that is when it becomes a problem. You know, if you get sick and you won't let anybody take care of you, or you won't go to the hospital, you won't seek some kind of external help, that's getting to the point where it's getting a little bit ridiculous, and you need to be able to accept help, and you need to accept kindness. I have a real big problem with people like owing people. I feel like if I owe somebody a favor, or I owe them like an Uber ride or something, that really doesn't sit well with me. I really don't appreciate that, and I don't like it. And so I do everything in my power to be the one that orders the Uber, be the one that, you know, does this, does that. I almost always pay on the first date because I just don't like the idea of owing somebody. The second date, I don't have a problem with splitting it or, whatever. But generally for the first date, I'm like, no, like this is mine. I don't want there to have to be an assumption of another date or, like, it's been a thing for me my whole life is I have this independence problem where owing somebody a favor, owing somebody something doesn't sit well with me. And I'm just like, oh no, I can't do that. So that's just like a factor that I've learned that I need to adapt around and build around. And there's nothing wrong with building around or working around your issues or your idiosyncrasies or whatever it is. So I think that is important to keep in mind and to appreciate, Yeah. But again, if you are a hyper independent person, my heart goes out to you. You are probably a very driven individual who is trying to do everything best for either yourself or your community or your family or your friends. And I think that's very important. I have to go chase down a dog. But thank you guys so much for listening. Leave me your comments about hyper independence. Again, I said it was a weakness in dating, but I think it's a big, strong character trait in general. So I wasn't bashing being independent at all, but you need to be able to accept help. So I am going to go help my dog, and thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.